HOA Karen called cops after gifting my ranch lake to her fiancé, then got slapped with $3M lawsuit. She was live streaming the entire thing, laughing, champagne in hand. Her fiancé, some plastics mile investment broker, kissed her while she raised a glass toward the lake. "My lake, and this," she said, waving at the water, "is my engagement gift to you, baby." People clapped. They cheered on the live chat. Rose gold balloons floated behind them, tied to a wooden dock. Their guests stood around in matching pastel linen, toasting to their new chapter. They didn't even see me walking down the gravel path, deed folder in hand, boots hitting the dust, but she did. She turned. Saw me, her smile flickered just for a second. Then she raised her phone higher, eyes glittering, and screamed, "He's trespassing. Someone call the cops." It started 5 months ago, when she first showed up in a teal Lexus with HOA stickers plastered across the windshield. She got out, clipboard in hand, sunglasses big enough to hide the look in her eyes. She walked the fence line like she owned it. Didn't even glance at me, standing there fixing the gate post. "You'll need to remove this," she said, tapping the fence. "This is my boundary fence," I told her. She smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "New environmental runoff regulations effective this month. The HOA has determined it obstructs water flow into the lake." "My lake." She lowered her glasses. "Community lake, sweetheart. Shared resource." "No," I told her. "This property, including that lake, was purchased outright 3 years ago. You know that." She scribbled on her clipboard, muttering, "We'll see." That was her favorite phrase. She started small, little fines taped to my gate, unauthorized tree trimming, failure to register irrigation, excessive private use of shared water feature. I ignored them at first. I knew the law. I had the deeds, the maps, the water rights. But she wasn't working within the law. She was working within fear. The neighbors were terrified of her. She'd walk up to them during morning walks, threaten them with fines, with HOA liens, with water shut-offs, if they spoke up about her. She'd host these community meetings on Facebook Live, where she'd parade around in yoga pants and big hair, calling herself the president, rambling about beautifying Ridgeview, all while billing the HOA for her wine deliveries. I tried to ignore it. I tried to stay quiet, but then I got the call from my ranch hand at 6 a.m. "You need to come down here," he said. "They're setting up tents by the lake." I drove down, and there they were. White canopies, speakers, music tests bouncing off the water. I saw a cake with gold letters, "Future Mr. and Mrs." They were planning to use my lake for her engagement party, without asking, without paying, without permission. When I confronted her, she waved me off. "It's for the community, don't be selfish." I told her she was trespassing. She told me to get off her HOA property. She called the sheriff. Told them I was harassing her during a community event. The deputies showed up, confused, apologetic, but they asked me to leave to avoid escalation. She had everyone fooled, but she didn't know what I knew. The HOA was broke, quietly broke. They'd spent money on her events, her beautification projects, her travel reimbursements. And I knew because I'd attended the county auction 2 weeks prior, where her fiancé's adjacent lot, the only road they could legally use to access the lake, came up for back taxes. And I bought it. For $12,300, I bought the strip of dirt she needed to cross to reach my lake. She didn't know, not yet. I waited. I let her plan her party, set up her live stream, let her clink glasses, and give speeches about our lake. I watched her pose with her fiancé, a man who couldn't even name the creek feeding the lake. He was so excited to inherit. I let them play their game, bragging about new development plans they were going to announce soon. And then I walked down with the deed, and the world saw everything. She screamed into her phone while live streaming, her voice shrill, cutting through the morning air. "He's trespassing on HOA property. Someone call 911 now." Behind her, the fiancé tried to pull her back, whispering something, but she yanked away, waving her phone to keep the stream going. Comments flew on her live chat. "Get him out. Why's he there? Queen Karen shutting down the haters." She turned back to me, smirking with that fake calm she used on everyone. "You need to leave immediately. We are filing charges for trespassing and harassment." She turned her phone toward her fiancé. "Baby, call the cops." I didn't flinch. I held up the folder, opened it, and let the papers flutter in the breeze. "This is the recorded deed for this lake and all adjoining water rights, filed under my name. You are trespassing." Her eyes twitched. "Just for a second, fake," she snapped, loud enough for the live stream. "It's fake. The HOA owns this lake. We've always used it. You can't just kick us off." I didn't say a word. I stepped aside and let them see what I'd done overnight. A fence. A solid black barbed wire fence, with locked gates stretching across the gravel drive, cutting off the only path to the lake from the adjacent lot. The lot I now owned. The lot I had bought quietly, legally, without her knowing. And now the only lake access she had for her big community engagement party was blocked. People on the live stream started noticing the fence in the background. "Wait, what's that fence? Who owns that? Is it legal?" She realized the narrative was slipping, so she started screaming. "You're a criminal. You stole this land. You're blocking HOA access. This is illegal. I'm calling the sheriff." I let her call. When the deputies arrived, she ran to them, tears in her eyes, ranting about how I had ruined her engagement, how I was attacking her, how I hated the community. She shoved her phone in their faces, still streaming, begging them to arrest me. Deputy Carter, the same one who had come last time, stepped forward, glanced at me, then at the fence, then at the deed I handed him. He read quietly. He looked at her, then at her fiancé, who was now pacing in the dirt, avoiding eye contact. "This deed is valid." The deputy finally said, "You don't have legal access to this lake without permission from the property owner." She lost it. "You're taking his side. This is my lake, my fiancé," she gestured wildly. "He's building us a dock here. We already announced it to our investors." "Investors?" I asked quietly. She froze. People on her live stream were spamming, "Investors? What dock? Karen scamming the HOA." She tried to end the stream, but it was too late. Someone had already started screen recording. That night, I filed the lawsuit. A $3 million claim against her personally and against the HOA, citing trespassing, attempted property theft, slander, and damages to my land from her unapproved beautification. Work near the water line. She went live again, screaming about how I was suing a single woman trying to protect the community. She tried to paint herself as a victim, as always, but what she didn't know was what her fiancé did next. Because that night, drunk and furious about losing his big investment, he called me. He left a voicemail, slurring, yelling about how she promised him the lake, so he could flip the land to investors. How she was stealing HOA funds to cover wedding expenses, how she forged elections to stay HOA president because she needed to control the board. For this plan, I played that voicemail to my lawyer. I posted a snippet on my page, and it went viral. People started digging. Her HOA members, tired of her threats, tired of her fake fines, tired of her bullying, began sending me emails, screenshots of her private group chats, her invoices, her expense reports showing wine tastings, retreats, and community engagement. Bills signed off by herself. Turns out, she was using HOA funds to pay for her engagement party, her trips to wine country, her networking brunches, and the lake. She had promised it to multiple investors, collecting reservation fees for docks she didn't own. The meltdown was nuclear. It all came crashing down on a Wednesday afternoon. She went live again in her kitchen, eyes red, hair tied in a messy bun, pacing in front of the camera while holding a glass of wine. She was ranting about betrayal, about haters, about ungrateful neighbors. Her fiancé had left her by then, deleting all his socials after people flooded his pages with questions about dock investments and lake rights. She tried to control the narrative. But it was too late, because by then the county had opened an investigation, so had the state HOA regulatory board, and so had the feds, because in that drunken voicemail her fiancé mentioned something else. Eco-sabotage. She had ordered workers to dig trenches near the lake without permits to improve water flow. But those trenches dumped silt and chemicals into the protected waterway, harming fish populations and violating environmental protection laws. It wasn't just a civil problem anymore, it was federal. Neighbors who had stayed silent for years started speaking out. They shared videos of her screaming at them over hedges, threatening fines, accusing them of violations for leaving trash cans out too long. They shared stories of how she'd stalk their social media, screenshot backyard gatherings, and send HOA violation notices the next day for unauthorized parties. She wasn't a leader, she was a tyrant. And when she thought she could play Monopoly with my family's legacy, that was her final mistake. I showed up at the HOA meeting, papers in hand, while a local news crew recorded from outside. She tried to stop me at the door, waving a restraining order she printed from a template online, but the sheriff standing there told her to stand down. Inside, the room was packed. Neighbors who had avoided these meetings for years sat there quietly, eyes forward, waiting. I spoke clearly, calmly, explaining the timeline, showing the deeds, the payments, the auction documents, the fines, the fake citations, the voicemail. Silence, then someone clapped and another, and then the whole room. She tried to shout over them, screaming about fake news, about community haters, about jealous men, but nobody listened anymore, because the lies had rotted away, exposed under the weight of her own arrogance. The feds came for her 3 weeks later. She was arrested at dawn, the same way she liked to call code enforcement on others. She was barefoot, still in her robe, hands shaking as they led her out. Someone filmed it from across the street, posting it with the caption, "Karen called the cops, they came for her instead." The HOA board was dissolved. A new neighborhood association formed, one that actually listened, that actually cared about people, not power. The lake remained mine, quiet again, water rippling under the dawn sun as geese settled across the surface. And that fence, I left it up, not because I needed it anymore, but because it was a reminder that your land, your peace, your family's legacy, they're worth protecting. Even when it means standing alone, even when it means being called the bad guy, even when the whole neighborhood is too afraid to speak. Because people like her thrive on fear, but once that fear is gone, so are they. If you want to know the real power of property law, remember this: she played Monopoly, I played for keeps, and that's how it all collapsed live for everyone to see.